It's the Worth Knowing live stream on my Substack, Worth Knowing with Matt Robison, and also on the Cliff's Edge channel on YouTube. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn. Actually, we're on YouTube twice now because we're streaming in landscape and portrait mode. And I kind of love all of this. I'm traveling simultaneously through time and space across all these platforms. It makes me feel a little bit like Doctor Who. So thank you for being my companions on this particular TARDIS. Wow, my nerdiest opening ever. We've got a great show today. Coming up in a little bit, we've got former Congressman Paul Hodes, my former boss in Congress, also a former prosecutor, here to talk about the mind-boggling incompetence that led to the collapse of the Comey and James prosecutions and the potential collapse of the Texas Redistricting gambit. And we'll also hit the totally not surprising disappearance of the Trump Affordable Care Act replacement plan, the insane sedition charges against Democrats, the saga of the Ukraine peace plan that wasn't about Ukraine, peace, or a plan, and what, as one former member of Congress to another, Paul thinks about Marjorie Taylor Greene's resignation. At the very end of the show, I'll welcome on, just for a couple of minutes, Matt Wiley to do a preview of this week's post-Thanksgiving political rehab show dropping on Friday. If you haven't heard about that new show yet, or you missed last week, please pop over to my Substack where you can see episode 1. It's also on YouTube, also on podcast, on Spotify, on Apple, everywhere else. I've gotten some really nice feedback about it. And as I said last week, this is my attempt to make politics fun again. It's Pardon the Interruption meets The Daily Show, where a Republican and a Democrat can dump on Trump together and cover the week's news and call out the bullshit and hopefully make us all feel like we can take the world seriously, but still have a good time and not leave with a hangover. We think the path back to sanity means defeating the authoritarians as job number one and getting to a place where we can have conversations about ideas and disagreements about policy and still feel okay. And I should say that we're actively looking for viewer mailbag questions for this week. We've got a few of them already that are pretty wacky. People are definitely understanding the assignment on this one to make the discussion fun. So I'd like to invite everyone to hit me up through Substack at worthknowing.substack.com. Hit me with an email or a chat or a DM or right here in the chats. When we get to the end, I'll pop those questions in there. If you have them for us, we'll try to grab them. So all that is coming up in just a few minutes. But I want to start today with a catch-22. As many of you know, in addition to my own Substack, I also write for other media outlets, often Newsweek. And yesterday, I sent a new idea to my editor for an article. And with the interruption of Thanksgiving holiday, this won't be coming out until next week. But since I spent this morning writing it up, I wanted to talk a little bit about it and the argument that I'm developing here. I want to give a sneak preview. And I'd like to hear what you think, because I still have a chance to refine it. And the people in the live stream chats are always a great source of ideas and insights. And let me say up front that I'm putting myself in some danger here. The danger of spraining a shoulder, patting myself on the back. I don't mean to, but the idea of this article was to revisit two predictions that I wrote in back-to-back articles in Newsweek a year ago, right after the 2024 election. And I'm essentially arguing that those predictions came true. So yeah, I'm running the risk of sounding self-congratulatory here, but I really don't mean to. The goal is to try to take an objective look at how things started and how they're going a year after that disastrous election that left so many of us so despondent and so deeply afraid for the future. And at the time that I wrote this, I was trying to take what I saw from my experience as a congressional staffer, a campaign manager, and a political writer and apply it, because I genuinely thought that the situation might not be as bad as we all feared. And I also truly believe that despondency was dangerous. It's become commonplace to say hope is not a strategy. But I actually think when you're fighting authoritarians, hope is a strategy. It's their objective to seem inexorable, unstoppable. Trump thought he was Thanos. He was inevitable, but he wasn't. What I thought at the time that I was seeing was a mirage that he was getting suckered into and a trap that he was walking into. And I'm revisiting all of this now, not to say, see, but rather because I still think hope is a strategy. I still think that recognizing that as awful as the last year has been, Trump has actually been his own worst enemy. And it's quite possible that the worst is past us. So let's dive just very quickly into the argument that I'm laying out here. And please, I do want to get your comments and feedback on all of this, and I'll try and talk about it and keep up with what you're saying in the chats at the same time. So I'm arguing that a year ago, President-elect Donald Trump was faced with one mirage and one trap. And he got suckered by the first, by the mirage, and he walked right into the second. The mirage was the amount of power that he would wield. Now, we saw that he had won a trifecta of control, the presidency, the U.S. House, and the U.S. Senate. And he was spewing the kind of vitriol and mania associated with Elon Musk on ketamine. So he clearly thought he could just jawbone his opponents into submission and get anything he wanted. But as I wrote at the time, I think this was a distorted picture. Here's what I wrote in Newsweek. Historically, a president's ability to accomplish anything legislatively wanes significantly after their first 2 years. Every midterm election of the past 20 years brought a major thermostatic backlash against the party of the president. Even if 2026 breaks that mold, a lame duck Trump will have a much harder time pushing his agenda among Republicans positioning for 2028. Remember, when he's not on the ballot, his sway over the electorate has been decidedly mixed. Republicans know that and will likely act accordingly. I went on to say that leaves executive action and judicial appointments. These are dangerous. Trump will surely inflict serious pain on the administration of justice, from his Project 2025 plan to turn the Department of Justice into a Trump retribution squad to the chance to further cement an unshakable far-right Supreme Court. But for the time being, the judicial branch of government will still provide a powerful check on Trump power grabs. As much as the Supreme Court has been captured by MAGA loyalists cosplaying as strict constructionist justices, it's the lower federal courts that make the vast majority of final determinations. And so my point here is congressional Republicans are at best a fractious lot, but most of the time, at their worst, which is most of the time, they're like a room full of feral cats. Trying to herd them becomes nigh impossible as you approach the midterm elections. This is why no Republican House Speaker lasts longer than the lifetime of a mayfly. And the judiciary is still in a position to throw a mountain of sand in the gears. So that was the one article. That was the one argument. This may not be quite as bad as we're fearing. The second argument was about a catch-22, the trap that I thought Trump was walking into. On the one hand, Trump was determined to get rid of what he called the deep state, but what he really means is people who work in executive branch agencies who implement the laws passed by Congress, the kinds of people who might object to blatantly illegal or just plain terrible ideas. And the problem, as I wrote in that article, is that replacing competent professionals means you end up with incompetent amateurs. So here's the catch-22. Trump didn't want people telling him no. He wanted their loyalty, as he said to James Comey, your honest loyalty. So if he left them in place, they might, say, hey, sir, bad idea, illegal idea, sir. But if he gave in to what his id wanted him to do, which he does 100% of the time, and he fed his addiction to loyal yes men, it would put the most powerful tools of his presidency into the hands of the MAGA Keystone cops. Here's what I wrote. This is just one example. Executive branch agencies execute, i.e., implement the laws passed by Congress. They need to do what Congress says. That includes a lengthy, complicated process for making or changing rules for programs and policy. There are detailed legal requirements for drafting new proposals, gathering reviews, gathering public comments, making changes, and doing yet more reviews. I was summarizing there because I have a word limit. My editors don't like me to go on for longer than 800 words or so. Trust me, it's a very, very complicated process, and I could have written like 2 books about it. The whole painstaking procedure usually takes 2 years. When the Food and Drug Administration changed the federal definition of frozen cherry pie, no, really, it took 3 years. So agencies can't just do what their heads or the president wants. Neither can Elon Musk, no matter what titles Donald Trump hands him. For all the dismay over what Trump has cooking, if he wants big changes, he's going to need the deep state. And yes, now would be a great time to Google the term irony. So where are we at? That's how it started. Where are we at? How is it going? I would argue that this is pretty much how things played out. Ow, my shoulder. Yes, I know. Again, this is not to like say, see, I got a prediction right. I get plenty of predictions wrong. But Trump has sprung his own trap on himself. And we're going to talk about this because I see Paul Hodes is making his way into the studio here. He's lurking. This is what members of Congress do. They lurk. We're going to talk about this because he's a former prosecutor. But let's just run down a very, very quick hit list of the kinds of shambolic hash that Trump's unqualified hacks have wrought on his agenda. I mean, take Liberation Day, right? Now, for those of us who have been staffers in Congress or in the executive branch, you know how many hundreds of people get involved in putting together a policy, especially something that's the highest profile policy, the foundation of a president's entire economic and foreign relations plan. Plan, that's a tough word to use with Trump, but just go with me on this. Hundreds of people vetting ideas, developing it, fine-tuning it for months and months. What happened? The tariffs appeared to have been generated by ChatGPT. Really, you can look this up. They targeted islands inhabited only by penguins. They rested on such an obvious legal sinkhole that very likely to be overturned by the Supreme Court, although who wants to second guess the Supreme Court? And they were such an obvious disaster that the signs were that it was going to melt down the bond markets, which was going to melt down the entire world economy. So Trump had to backtrack. Look at what we're going to talk about today, right? The whole case against James Comey and Letitia James just fell apart because the incompetent Attorney General Pam Bondi illegally appointed the incompetent prosecutor Lindsay Halligan to replace the competent professionals who refused to make charges in these cases. And that saved Halligan from further embarrassment because she'd screwed up procedurally so badly that the charges were likely to be dismissed anyway. Also, and we'll talk about this in a couple of minutes, Bondi's DOJ has probably sunk Trump's Texas gerrymander. And I have a whole list that I'm putting into the article here. They screwed up their NEPA review to try and get rid of environmental reviews when you're doing big infrastructure building projects, but they've screwed that up so badly that it's actually probably going to freeze most building projects in place. They tried to shift functions of the education department, giving out program dollars to the labor department. They screwed that up so badly that the whole shift, the whole disintegration of the education department they're trying to pull off is in jeopardy. Their anti-DEI executive orders so sloppily drafted that they're now in a judicial morass. And the firings, the stupid firings. How many times? I looked this up. This was amazing. The Brookings Institution has tracked, you want to guess the number? 26,511 of these misadventures where you fire someone and rehire them within moments because you're like, oh my gosh, we fired the guy whose finger's on the button or is protecting us from Ebola or inspecting our food, keeping the prices of eggs down because they're preventing avian flu from wreaking havoc. It's unbelievable, the incompetence. And it's really crushed so much of what he wanted to get done through the executive branch. And what about the rest? What about the rest of the maybe this won't be so bad case? Well, I predicted that, in Trump's first term, he only passed one major piece of legislation. Correction, I was wrong about this one. He's passed two so far. The one big, beautiful bill, which is so badly branded and has sunk so far in the polling that Trump is furiously trying to rebrand it and call it something else. And what was the other major piece of legislation? Oh, the near unanimous vote where Republicans turned on him to force him to release the Epstein files. And by the way, the prospects for passing further legislation that Trump favors in the remainder of the term before the midterms, diminishing. And where are we on, let's say, the midterms? Well, the generic ballot is moving strongly in the Democrats' favor. We just saw what happened in the 2025 elections. We see what's happening among key demographic groups. The whole swing of Latino voters toward Trump 2024, that's evaporated. Even if the Texas Redistricting plan goes through, Democrats are now bullish on the opportunity to win all of those gerrymandered seats. Trump's popularity is cratering. So, yeah, here's my point. And then we're going to bring on Paul. I'm not minimizing how shitty a year this has been, how much damage he's done. I come back to this over and over again. This obnoxious idea that Trump should win a Nobel Peace Prize when he's directly killed 300,000 people around the world, many of them children, on track to kill 14 million people around the world by 2030. That's the latest projection, because he eviscerated USAID for no reason, because he had a chainsaw wielding maniac on ketamine with his finger on the keys. I know it's been a disaster. I know it's been terrible, but it could have been a lot worse. He's his own worst enemy. He was always going to be limited in how bad he could make it. And he continues to step on rake after rake after rake. And maybe the future is looking a little bit brighter. On that upbeat note, let's bring in Paul Hodes.
Hey there, Matt.
Oh, my goodness gracious. A real live former member of Congress. I feel like the crocodile. Oh,
can you hear me okay?
A live one.
You hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Good.
You're very lifelike for an AI avatar replacement. For
it's true. I ought to have blue skin, and fly around on a dragon.
Oh yes, you are the chosen one. You are what is oh gosh, it's been so long. You are the rider of the forget
Whatever.
it. I can't speak Pandoran anymore. Paul, let's start where I ended there on the massive levels of incompetence. This is what I teased in the headline for this live stream. It is really remarkable. You are a former prosecutor. You can't just wing this shit. It's like Andy Borowitz wrote, like Lindsay Halligan is hoping to go to law school one day. You spend years studying in law school to learn how to do this. And then your legal education is just beginning. You're expected to spend years clerking, working at a law firm, probably both, to try to figure out how to get the procedure right, because the rules matter. Otherwise, your case is toast. So, what was your reaction? There's one thing, the ruling overall that the appointment of Lindsay Halligan was illegal. My contention is this is great for Trump. This is face saving, because Lindsay Halligan was about to go down in flames because she had so badly scotched the case against Comey. What do you make of that?
So let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. First of all, Trump, I think, went for Lindsay Halligan because she's so good looking. And
I disagree.
And she's blonde. But wait.
I don't want to evaluate her looks, because I'm a middle-aged white guy. I know
we're not going to get hung up on the misogyny of this. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
Okay, let's not get hung up on misogyny. You're right. I'm pushing back about everything having to do with Trump.
Yeah. Okay, you're just an apologist for Trump. But anyway, putting all that aside, so there had been a prosecutor named Eric Siebert, and he had been appointed as an interim prosecutor because the real prosecutor resigned in protest, essentially, over Trump's policies. So they appointed Eric Siebert, and the clock started ticking. He had 120 days for his temporary appointment, because we're dealing with a constitutional provision called the Appointments Clause, and we're also dealing with the framework that has been set up to appoint prosecutors to offices like the chief prosecutor, the head of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Virginia. And there are rules, and there are known rules and known procedures, because under the Appointments Clause, you can have appointments where the president appoints and the Senate approves and the folks are appointed. I am that kind of appointee in my role as a national counselor on the arts. The president nominated me. The Senate went through debate for months. I was vetted by the FBI and I got my appointment. Then there's another kind of appointment where an agency head or the president can appoint, but then you run into all kinds of other procedural requirements, which ends up with, at a certain point, by law or by statute, the judiciary has to step in. So here's what happened. It turned out that Lindsay Halligan, and we'll go to the other deficiencies in a moment, but Lindsay Halligan blew it. It was blown around her, because after Trump went on his rant and said, we need to go after these bad people, Pam Bondi, of course, did Trump's bidding, because the Department of Justice is, after all, just an arm of the White House. It's not an independent agency which is supposed to protect the people. It's supposed to protect Donald Trump's sensibilities. So anyway, Pam Bondi then engineered the appointment of Lindsay Halligan. Why Lindsay Halligan? Well, why not? She apparently had a law license. She apparently had done some insurance or corporate law somewhere. Her prosecutorial experience was zero. So she went into the grand jury all by herself, which is a little bit odd, by the way, for a significant federal prosecution of major figures, the Attorney General of New York and the former head of the FBI. She went into the grand jury all by herself. And this was 2 weeks after her appointment, so she must have had plenty of time to review this voluminous file that numerous other prosecutors had declined to bring to the grand jury. In 2 weeks, because she must be brilliant, she managed to figure it all out, go to the grand jury, and get these indictments against James and Comey. So the judge reviewing the case on the question of her illegal appointment basically said, no way, the appointment is illegal. It didn't follow the rules. You cannot simply say you're the next interim U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, because and to make a long story short, the district court would have had to have okayed her appointment. So then they go to, what's the remedy? And the remedy is, it means there's basically no prosecutor. So if there was no prosecutor, then
there's no prosecution.
There's no prosecution. So away they go. Now, the significant question, and why I stopped you a little bit at the beginning, is because the judge then, and before we went on the air, I read the 26-page opinion just to make sure I wasn't too stupid. The last question the judge asks is it with prejudice or without prejudice? Because
explain that, because that's a key point.
If it's with prejudice, it means you can't bring it again. If it's without prejudice, then the prosecution may be able to try again. They may get a do-over.
So let me push you on that, though, because technically they could bring the prosecution again because it's without prejudice. However, aren't we past the statute of limitations?
You asked the question. So
way to try the soup.
So the question really then becomes, in terms of the statute of limitations, especially with respect to Comey, is this 120-day period that they're allowed to appoint an interim prosecutor. The question is, does it run from the time that Eric Siebert was first appointed, and then, however, does it get extended because of all this mishigas, let's just say?
All right, well, let me ask you this then.
But wait.
Even if it's technically possible, here's the question that I'm scrolling across the bottom with a ticker, because I've discovered, Cliff Schechter taught me this, I've discovered that you can live scroll things at the bottom. It's delightful. It makes me feel as irritating as CNN. Why? Okay. It reminds me of the old joke, beat me, said the masochist. No, said the sadist. Why would the masochists in the Trump administration, having seen how badly Lindsay Halligan screwed up the procedure in this case, never brought it to the grand jury, just like created 2 copies of the indictment, picked one, kind of photoshopped it, ran it by the foreman. It was just like, it was like if ChatGPT on meth had tried to do legal procedure here. Are they masochists? Why, even if they're able to bring it back, why would they? Why would they bring themselves in for further punishment here, Paul?
The question about the illegality of the appointment is really only, as you have so trenchantly pointed out just now, only the first step. Because, as you say, the courts in these cases have gotten a hold of the entire grand jury transcript. They've gotten a hold of Lady Lindsay's opening remarks and her closing remarks. They've gotten a hold of the questions the grand jury asks, because when you go into a grand jury as a prosecutor, and especially when you're all alone as a prosecutor, there's a little bit of back and forth. You make an opening statement, you tell them what evidence you're going to present, you present the evidence, you basically say, and now I leave it up to you. You've heard the evidence. I've presented these indictments. Please consider them. Lindsay Halligan, according to the transcripts, did a lot more than that. She did things like she said, well, I'm presenting evidence, but you don't have to look at just that evidence. We have a lot more, which we'll put on later at trial. So you could think about that too. She basically gave them free rein to ignore the law. Her opening and closing remarks are, let's just say, highly prejudicial and improper. So the courts have all that. And as you say, was Lindsay Halligan saved by the dismissal from humiliation? I don't think she's feeling humiliated. She's feeling
I don't think she understands.
She's feeling like, thank God I don't have to do this job
Yeah.
anymore. I can go back to corporate law.
What is the meaning of all these words? These pages, the text is so small. Paul, is she in danger of being disbarred?
I'm not sure. Well, the answer is prosecutorial misconduct may or may not lead to proceedings at the bar. So here's your defense. Judge or judges or my fellow lawyers, he put me in this impossible position. I was basically directed to indict these people. So I don't know what I'm doing. I went in there and I did the best I could. I didn't know. I was so ignorant. You don't want to disbar me.
Ignorance of the law is not.
I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to my life as a corporate lawyer.
You're the lawyer, man.
I'm telling you what she tried to argue.
No.
I don't know that she's going to be disbarred. I don't think she's going to get reappointed as a United States attorney.
On the other hand, this is the Trump administration. She might get promoted. Let's turn to another one here. I was really fascinated. This was part of my research for that Newsweek article for next week. I was just looking at all of the incredible, boneheaded, dumbfounding, ham-fisted, I'm looking for a thesaurus here, missteps of the Trump administration's minions who are entirely incompetent. I'm looking back at you, Pam Bondi, because your DOJ, by all accounts, sent a letter in furtherance of the Texas predatory redistricting gambit that was so stupid. It was so legally idiotic. This is like Legally Blonde, a dumb version. I'm going to filibuster my way through this just so that Paul has a chance of surviving.
I'm surviving.
Good. They sent a letter demanding that Texas do this redistricting plan that was the legal equivalent of bank robbers writing down their heist scheme and a confession and mailing it to the cops. They literally said, we want you to do something unconstitutional and illegal now. And the Trump appointed judge, in writing the opinion halting the Texas redistricting gambit, called on that letter, said, here's the proof. You said it yourself. Did Pam Bondi's DOJ fuck this one up too?
Well, it's going to make a very interesting Supreme Court opinion. Are they going to ignore Pam Bondi basically saying, okay, Texas, here's what the president and I want you to do. We want to make sure that no black people can vote in these districts ever again. We want to make sure that only Republicans win because we've set it up racially so that we are being divisive. We want to make sure that you are properly gerrymandering in order to discriminate against one racial group. Other than that, the letter was perfectly fine. So the case went to a 3-judge district court panel, and in Texas, the three judge district court panels are made up of a variety of kinds of judges. The district court judge who wrote the opinion, and there was some opposition on the panel. It was a 2-1 decision. The district court judge who wrote the opinion is a former Texas Supreme Court judge. He was a Trump appointee, and he just, I mean, what could he do? He said, "Here's this letter. This thing can't go forward." So of course, now it's in the Supreme Court, and the Texas is challenging if they want to come back. So who do they find? They find friendly Judge Alito. And what does Alito do? Alito has put in an administrative pause on all of this while the justices consider what should happen.
He's basically Jean Reno in The Professional. He's coming in. He's the wolf. He's the wolf. It's like, man, you called in the wolf? Yeah. He's Harvey Keitel. They called in Samuel Alito, except, like the right-wing incompetent version, not like the super cool Harvey Keitel version, to clean up the unbelievable dumb fuckery.
There's no way. I don't see how. I mean,
yes.
you've got.
Can I give Pam a piece of advice? I'm not a lawyer. I'm a simple political analyst at low-level government functionary, or whatever I used to be when I worked for you. But you know what's a good idea? Don't tell the nefarious truth of what you're trying to do.
Really?
Here, take some advice from Megamon.
That's the point of lying.
Exactly.
Lying.
This is what you're supposed to do. Lie, Pam. Just like you're so good at it. You'll do it in front of congressional testimony for senators. Like, right. Just lie.
I know. You write a letter that says, I know that you will take all the steps necessary to protect all protected groups, and that you will revise the district so that they are fair and equitable as you see fit in your purview as legislators. But she didn't do that.
Can I just say to and I want to address something that's going on in the chats here. There are a lot of trolls out today.
Oh, I like it.
We just looked under a bridge and we found the live stream. What has happened is apparently Thanksgiving week, the trolls stay home and they like to watch this live stream. So mazel to them. But there are some like legit comments in here that are dissents, and I want to include them as well, because we do not shut out people who just plain disagree or might be Republicans. Like, that's cool. You can disagree with us. So we've got John Albiocco. I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. 3555 saying, you two got to be joking. Your left-wing judges don't judge. They try and legislate. Now, listen, I'm not going to say that that's always wrong. In this case, though, allow me to retort. This judge that turned down the Texas Redistricting was a Trump-appointed judge. Like, this is not some lefty left winger.
Texas Supreme Court, like appointed by Donald J. Trump, who is not exactly a left wing activist. Is she? I mean, really? I mean, let's.
Right. No, so I'll say to John, like, I'm not going to say that you're always wrong here, by any means. Like, left-wing judges, right-wing judges, like, they sometimes exceed their authority. However, in this case, I got to disagree. I mean, this is a Trump judge. Let's move on. Paul, you gave up your seat in Congress because you decided to vote for Obamacare. What were you thinking? I know what you were thinking, because you called me from the floor to say, hey, Matt, I'm probably going to lose my seat if I do this. Yep, boss.
Yeah, well, I was in the middle of running for the U.S. Senate when I did it. Even stupider, right?
And
I should have just folded and listened to my constituents who said, listen, I don't want the government taking over my health care. Just keep your goddamn government hands off my Medicare.
Exactly. Well, listen, unfortunately, you did not take that approach. Instead, you took the approach of calling me from the House floor saying, I'm going to lose if I vote for this. And I said, yes, boss. And you said, it's the right thing to do, isn't it? And I said, yes, boss. And you said, okay, bye-bye.
Right.
So
and
now,
By the
Now-
way, that was on my birthday. That my birthday present to myself was giving up my political career, March 21, 2010.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
a
So what do
very
you want to
belated
know?
happy
What do you
birthday.
want to know about the
What I
ACA?
want to know is, how surprised were you on a scale of 0 being zero surprised, not at all surprised, to 10 like absolutely galactically gobsmacked by the fact that Donald Trump announced that he has a secret plan to replace the ACA subsidies that were the nominal cause for the Democrat-led government shutdown. Democratic Party. I don't mean to make it sound like I'm a Republican saying the Democrat Party. How surprised were you by the fact that Trump said, "Oh, I've got a plan here," and then he announced, "I'm not going to talk any further about this alleged plan. It's all a Democratic Party hoax," and he withdrew it. Surprised? Like you're a 10?
Not really. I'm not a 10 because the handwriting on the wall after the shutdown, during the shutdown, was that the American people have gotten a little bit used to the ACA. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying it's all it should be. It was the beginning of insurance reform that, but for the Republican stupidity, should have been made better over the past 15 years. But putting that aside,
You're talking about the public option.
Yeah.
Bad wanted a public option.
Yeah. But the among other things, at this
Among
point,
other things.
I'm even further out than that. But but putting that aside, it was clear that vast numbers of the American people depended on the ACA, and that it would not be good for Trump or the Republican Party to have people's premiums go up 100, 200, 300% if they were using the ACA. So even Trump saw a little bit of right-wing, saw that writing on the wall and said, okay, I've got a plan. And his plan was basically to take a conservative wish list of what should happen to the ACA and think to himself, that's my plan. But he ran afoul. Who did he run afoul of? Of elected representatives, the Republicans in the House and Senate. He ran afoul of the people in his party who have begun, it seems, after the Epstein business to begin to grow a conservative backbone. And so, because Trump is, I just, calling him conservative does damage to the real notion of what a conservative is. Somebody who wants to conserve, somebody who it does great. So whatever Trump is, the Republicans in Congress said, not so fast. We've got other things on our minds about doing this. And Trump immediately backed down.
Yes, he folded faster than Superman on Laundry Day. I want to, by the way, first of all, say hi to Kevin Hannon T5D, watching all the way from Ireland.
Oh, Kevin, so nice of you to join us.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's a Jewish Irish accent from Paul there.
That's my Yiddish Irish.
And I'd like to give a shout out here to M. Roush 6028, who writes, "I'm a Republican. It's nice to see Democrats that can discuss different opinions without calling us racist Nazis. This is the way we should all be. God bless." And I want to say,
amen.
First of all, kudos to you. Amen. Kudos to you for being in this live stream, because look, we can be kind of like, we're mostly Democrats here. We can be a salty bunch. We're pretty feisty. We're all pretty pissy with Trump. But listen, I'm about to have Matt Wiley, a high-level Republican consultant to current Republican U.S. senators. He and I do a show together on Fridays called Political Rehab, where we try to focus on, we're all against Trump, but we want to get politics back to a place of being fun again. And we can have disagreements. We can have policy disagreements. We have a lot more that unites us probably in our core and our souls than divides us. So welcome and kudos to you for being here. And okay, back to dumping on Trump. I mean, geez Louise. Of course, I'm zero surprised about this ACA thing.
Right.
Let's talk about something truly, truly obnoxious. Truly obnoxious. And I think that most traditional conservative Republicans agree on this. I really, really do. I hope so. I want to talk about the fact that Pete Hegseth is now prosecuting the case that Trump started with a Truth Social post, whatever you call it, a verbal explosion, saying that Democrats are seditious and should be hanged, that the penalty is death for their sedition. How dare they post a video saying that members of the U.S. military should not follow illegal orders? Here is U.S. Senator Mark Kelly with his response to that.
Even though I hear you when you say you're not intimidated, this must be a source of stress for you and your family. I just have to ask the kind of impact that it's having on you and your loved ones.
Rachel, I've had a missile blow up next to my airplane. I've been shot down, nearly shot down multiple times. I've flown a rocket ship into space 4 times, built by the lowest bidder. And my wife, Gabby Giffords, meeting with her constituents, shot in the head, 6 people killed around her. A horrific thing. She spent 6 months in the hospital. We know what political violence is, and we know what causes it, too. You know, the statements that Donald Trump made is insightful, incites others. He's got millions of supporters. People listen to what he says more so than anybody else in the country.
Okay, so let me say a few things. First of all, I served with Gabby Giffords. So when Mark Kelly talks about what happened to Gabby, I feel it very deeply, because I knew Gabby before and I've known Gabby afterwards. Political violence in this country is on the rise under Trump. It has been his stock in trade. I'm not calling him names. I'm just stating facts that Trump's language he's incited bad things for a long time. You want to talk about sedition? Let's talk about January 6th, because he has the definition of sedition all wrong. Sedition is basically calling on or inciting a violence against authority illegally. So that's what sedition is. So in the first place, the 6 Democrats, all veterans of either the military or intelligence agencies, are not being seditious. Just bad use of the term. And secondly, what a stupid, childish, demented thing to say, to call for the execution of people with whom you disagree, especially, by the way, when what they were doing was stating the law, okay? Stating the current law in the Military Code of Justice, which, if you read it and read all the analysis of it and listen to the generals who have come out in droves to talk about what it means, members of the military are bound to fealty and adherence to the Constitution, not to any one person, and they are bound to not follow illegal or unlawful orders. That's just the way it is. And this all comes about because the current occupant of the White House, President Donald Trump, has been talking about using military against United States civilians. He's put the National Guard into the streets of major cities for no apparent reason, and it's a problem. So they're speaking out to members of the military, and that is not seditious. And the real problem is deeper.
I want to point out that you're not alone in feeling this way. Here's a Republican Congressman, Representative Don Bacon, Kevin's cousin. Not making that up, but I wish it were true. 6 degrees. Amateur hour once again at the Department of Defense. Oh my gosh! Wow, that's awesome. Good job, Don. Amateur hour once again at the Department of Defense. Did he intend that? I thought the video by 6 Dems was unnecessary and foolish, but the threats of sedition charges and courts martial in response are also crazy. Let's show some common sense and restraint. Yes, 100%.
Anyway, the deeper issue is going to be a long-standing issue with us in America, and that is, how do we lower the temperature in politics, lower the temperature in political speech, and start to respect differing opinions and respect the rule of law, frankly.
Absolutely.
That's what we're going to be grappling with long after Trump is gone.
Well, speaking of getting ourselves back to a position of respect, sanity, and we can have arguments, but they're the kind of arguments that you feel okay about afterwards, because it's like your cousin. You're having an argument, which maybe that's a little on the nose with Thanksgiving approaching. I see Matt Wiley is going to be here in just a minute to talk about a little bit of a preview for our Friday show. I want to hit one more topic before I let you go, because I know this is near and dear to your heart. We've talked about this so much together over the last, I can't believe how many years it's been. I want to talk about what's been happening. There's breaking news right now about the Ukraine peace deal. Now, I said at the top of the show that this is sort of like the old Mike Myers quip that the Holy Roman Empire was neither holy nor Roman nor an empire. Discuss. And this Ukraine peace deal that we heard about starting last week was neither about Ukraine nor about peace, nor really a deal. It was actually, and there's fascinating reporting on this. Check out on Substack, Michael Weiss, who does the foreign affairs desk. Really, really great reporting that this was all basically just cooked up by a kind of like the Russian sovereign wealth fund manager, who's sort of like the interlocutor from Vladimir Putin. This was sort of sold over to Steve Witkoff, who is Donald Trump's, like, he's a real estate developer with no historical, geographical, or cultural knowledge of Russia or Ukraine.
Gets better.
And this guy, Kirill Dmitriev, who leads Russia's sovereign wealth fund,
right,
came in, handed off this 28-point plan. There's no need to air quote that. I mean, I guess it is a plan. It is a plan. Hands it off and then leaks it to Axios to make it seem like, oh, this thing has got momentum. It's got legs. The complicit, or frankly, dumb reporters at Axios go ahead and, just like launder this through. It's like, oh, high level sources say, it was Kirill Dmitriev who was saying that this is a thing. And all of a sudden, this whole game sets in Washington, where no one wants to tell the emperor that he has no clothes. No one wants to contradict Trump. So you've got Marco Rubio saying, oh, this is so fucking great. And he's quietly like, how do we dig ourselves out of this? You got the Europeans, great reporting in this from the New York Times today. You've got the Europeans basically immediately, in a case of emergency break glass, here's the Trump handling plan. What they immediately do is they go into, this mode of, let's steer Trump back from the brink by saying, oh, this is terrific. We love it. What a great starting point. We just want to strengthen you. You've done an amazing job. You're so good looking, sir. And somehow, miraculously, over the last few days, they've pulled it off. They've managed to kind of do this 3-point triangulation walk to kind of keep Trump happy. And Rubio's been furiously working it to try to get it down to now where it is, which is a 19-point plan that Volodymyr Zelensky has gone through with a fine-tooth comb and is acceptable. At least it's within range of acceptable to Ukraine.
Maybe.
I don't know. What did you take away from all of this? This was an amazing episode.
Donald Trumpoltinsky, we make you plan with 1 quart of beet borscht as well. You drink the borscht, you present the plan, everything good. So this was a Russian wish list. I said it at the same time as the Cynthia Rice said it. Cynthia Rice.
Is it the or the? I need clarification.
Cynthia Rice. It was a Russian.
Phonetic clarification.
It was a Russian wish list. Matt went through how it became something else. We're not at all sure that Zelensky really is going to find it acceptable. And even if he does, whether Putin finds it acceptable. What I find is really the crazy thing in all of this is that the new point guy for DJT, the new representative of the entire negotiation, is an investment banker, former soldier named Driscoll, who's head of the army, who is now the chief negotiator. His diplomatic
There's no
experience.
diplomatic experience.
Zilch.
Well,
Zilch.
no, he was good friends with J.D. Vance.
I know. That's how he got this job. We're very happy to be talking to Mr. Driscoll. He knows next to nothing. We will talk to him. We'll see what happens. He's a nice boy. He looks very young, you know, in the pictures, but maybe he's smarter than we think. But maybe
You've got
not.
Steve Witkoff, who knows nothing about Russia, Ukraine history, military history. And they've somehow downgraded to someone. Look, I don't know Dan Driscoll. He's probably an intelligent guy. He's the secretary of the
Probably
Army.
smart guy.
He's an ex-investment banker, so that means he's probably great at everything.
Maybe he's friends with Lindsey Halligan. The two of them could be the negotiators for this.
Here, just to quote Politico for a second. This is what they wrote. Negotiating with top-level Russian officials is something for which top Western diplomats train for years. Driscoll has been involved in this process for a matter of days, and the stakes can hardly be higher with tens of thousands of lives on the line as Europe's biggest war since 1945 rumbles on. Oh my gosh. The reason I wanted to end there is that it takes us full circle to my opening, which is my thesis statement. My swing thought for the last year has been Trump is in this catch-22. He's walked into a trap that he set for himself, where he insisted on getting rid of competent, able professionals who might occasionally say no to him or say, hey, maybe we could improve your idea here, boss. Maybe instead of the Sharpie, we'll just reprint this whole hurricane path map. And he replaced them with incompetent amateurs. And what you're getting is rank incompetence. And it's one thing when it's kind of funny and it blows up in Lindsey Halligan's face. It's quite another thing when you're talking about tens of thousands of kidnapped Ukrainian children and tens and thousands of dead Ukrainians and hundreds of thousands. I mean, this is terrible. Hundreds of thousands of dead Russian soldiers in this horrible, horrible war. And Donald Trump is not sending in the A team, the B team. He's sending in like the G team. And this is who stands. It's not so amusing anymore.
Well, you know, maybe the thinking is, hey, the real guys, what did they get done? We'll just pick some people and see, maybe they'll do as well as the real guys. But that's no way to run a government. It's no way to run a world. You certainly can't run a country that way. And we're all suffering the consequences.
Let me get you out of here on this. I want to go to one very insightful starred comment. Do you agree with Kinky Streets that Putin told Trump, I will keep the Bubba video sealed if you give me Ukraine? That's a fact. Is that a fact? Is that true?
It's Bubba Bubbles and it's P-tape. We have you, Donald Trump, right up at these shorts, you know what? And we're going to keep you right there. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Paul Hodes, everybody. I'm going to let you get out of here. You can make your escape before things get really, truly.
Hey, by the way, let me just say, what does Paul say? At what does Paul say? Is my Substack,
dude. What does Paul say? Of course, that makes me think. What does the Fox say? We got to work on your handle, man. We should. Okay, next time I'm going to do this cute thing where I put it as your like little subheader here in the white box underneath my name. See
you later, Matt.
All right. Goodbye to a former member of Congress. And hello.
What's going on, Matt?
Oh,
well, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm having a great time, and we're having wonderful active chats. And you missed the earlier comment from a registered Republican who was like, dude, you know what? I kind of like that you guys are able to have a reasonable conversation that can engage with Republicans and talk about issues, and not just call us Nazis. I mean, we do that occasionally, but
I mean, that happens. But yeah, no, I saw that.
If the shoe fits. I mean,
come on.
Let's say,
cases where,
for example, you're a member of the Young Republicans. Let's just say you're heaping praise on Nick Fuentes. You know, as one does.
Problems.
Listen,
problems.
We've all got problems.
For local chair of my Young Republican group, there are a lot of things in there that are just frightening on where we're going. But hey, I did see that comment, though, that segment where he also asked about judges and got into, I think what he said is, come on, Matt, like these judges are just trying to legislate from the bench, if I recall that was correct.
Yeah, well, again, you know, one thing we're not afraid to do, and I think this is a great segue to the political rehab show that we're doing on Fridays, we're not afraid to talk about stuff like this. Like, you know, we're not afraid of it. Like if our whole thesis is we're united in thinking Donald Trump is a clear and present danger to the United States of America and all we hold dear. And there's more that keeps us united
Mhm.
and that we have in common, the two of us, besides our first names and our general appearance. There's more that unites us, especially our hatred of Donald Trump, than divides us. We do have some sharp disagreements. That's okay.
Sure.
We can have them, and we can deal with them the way the guys on PTI would when they're talking about sports. We can talk about them. We can treat issues seriously, but also have fun with it. And in essence, this is the point of the project. We can try to make politics fun and not like doom scrolling again, and
Right.
make it engaging for people and something that people are willing to get into the discussion about.
Well, and I think that's what makes our show interesting and fun, and it's completely different than what anybody else is doing right now. We have a show where we can just talk about politics. We can go back and forth. We put it down into short 3-minute segments where we're talking about an issue, but we can have different points of view. Why you don't like Trump is very different than why I don't like Trump. But you're right. We're united in the fact that Trump is not good for this country. And we should be able to have those conversations. We ought to be able to have it from two different sides. And that's what makes this show great, is we get a chance for listeners to hear Republicans and Democrats talk about these issues.
And, we're both former inside, like we're either professionally in one way or another. We're still very much in, I don't want to call it the game, but we're still very much in the business. We're still very much, politics is what we do professionally. And we try to bring all of that experience to bear. And we also bloviate, like, the kinds of talking heads you see on social media. But
that's why we have to have 3-minute segments, because if you don't put a time limit on us, we will just talk forever.
No, we keep it short, punchy, fun. So let's get two things I want to do before we get everyone out of here today. First, I want to remind everyone in the chat. I want to very much invite you. We're going to do a mailbag this week because we've already gotten some fun questions. Can I give a this is great. If aliens landed tomorrow and asked who's in charge, would anyone have the heart to tell them? That's funny. That's funny.
I mean, so it's a brilliant question. And
it's a great question.
I'm not going to get into an answer because you got to tune in.
Well, you got to tune in.
Think about that one for a second. Like, if somebody says, "Take you to my leader," do you really want to admit that one?
Oh gosh.
I mean,
who would you? This is a follow-up question. Who would you point them to instead? All right. So let me ask everyone. Oh, and here we go. Is that you?
That's me.
Always on it. Shit,
wow.
There you are.
Quick.
All right. So listen. If people want to hit us up later, if you've got questions, if you've got things you want to see us tackle, please do. But also, you can just hit us up right now. Throw things, and we will live capture them right here in the chats. Oh, Taylor Swift, Will Knight. Yes. I might be very tempted. Look, shit, I have a long list of people I'd rather send the aliens to than Donald Trump. Taylor's on it.
That would be an interesting one. That would be an interesting one because, I mean, she clearly commands a huge audience. And from my side, let's not forget, we're still, as Republicans, warring with Taylor Swift for some reason. Because we somehow think she's the problem. So, it's just, I wrote an entire article last year that if Taylor Swift is our problem, we have bigger issues. And gosh, I wish those were the good old days when that's all I worried about. But, hey, we moved on.
Yes. Taylor Swift would be on my list. The Rock would be on my list. An actual rock would be on my list. All right. So that's the drill here. If people want to put questions in and that's number one, throw questions at us and we will get to them.
And here's the other one. And I just want to jump ahead here because yes, this is exciting. These questions will be exciting, but I am really looking forward to, hey, that's bullshit. Last week's was unbelievable. If you guys have not seen what Matt put together on, hey, that's bullshit, it is a work of art. It is a masterpiece. It should be taught in film school. It is phenomenal. And so you ought to take a look at that one because if that's the first, it's going to be fantastic.
Oh, thank you, my friend.
But that's what this show's about. Like, yeah, we can sit and talk politics and we will, but there's a lot of kind of other segments in here.
Should we watch like 20 seconds of it right now?
Let's do it.
All right. Just 20 seconds of that's bullshit.
20.
Our weekly look at everyone's favorite part of politics and modern life.
Bullshit. Bullshit.
Bullshit. A bullshit?
There's a crisis in America that's so obvious, even conservative figures from Fox News like Brett Baer get it.
Basically, inflation and how people feel about the economy.
Maybe people are concerned about rising prices, grocery prices in particular.
But President Donald Trump is trying to sell a completely different version of reality, a made-up fantasy that he's pushing as if his political life depends on it, because it does.
Why are people saying they're anxious about the economy? Why are they saying that?
I don't know that they are saying. I think polls are fake. We have the greatest economy we've ever had.
But that's bullshit. The economy is on track to grow, but less than 3% this year. All right. I got to stop
that's just phenomenal.
Thank you.
Like,
Thank you very
phenomenal.
much. And yes,
Phenomenal.
for people who are wondering, I do have a kind of standard uniform for this show that I tend to wear. I have like one T-shirt that I just feel comfortable.
I was wondering how many T-shirts you had, because it is the same, but that's fine. That's good.
Yeah.
Isn't that a thing? Like who was it that said just get one blue shirt, wear that every day, and then that way it always works?
I actually, for a while, I did have two versions of this shirt, but I'm down to one. All right, we got to get out of here. Pick one thing, if you would, that we're going to cover on this week's show that you're looking forward to covering from any segment.
I got to tell you, I mean, I feel like she's becoming a friend of the show, but we're talking Marjorie Taylor Greene again this week. Like it just, last week we talked about her and just everything that was coming, and is it a makeover, as we called it? And now this week again, it's coming back up. But we're not stopping there, because we are jumping into a lot of the other big issues of the week. I think, isn't there a segment in here talking about Trump's attack on the Democrats and saying we should hang people? Like,
we're going to do some sedition. Paul and I just covered that. We're going to do some follow up on sedition. I'll tell you the one that I'm looking forward to. We have a no holds barred investigative report on the death of the 6-7 meme. And I'm really looking forward to it. This is very, very exciting stuff. I know that everyone over the age of like 19 can really, really get behind this. So,
but what is South Park going to do in the next episodes if the meme is dead?
They'll find a way. You know, the whole thing of Satan having Donald Trump's butt, baby. They're going to find material. I'm pretty confident about that. All right. So that will be coming out on Friday. You can catch it on my Substack or Matt's Substack. I'll splash that right up here. Worthknowing.substack.com. It's also on YouTube, also on Spotify, also on Apple. I don't know. Maybe we should make it exclusive to one platform. But for right now, we're everywhere, everything, everywhere, all at once. Matt Wiley, thanks so much for being on. I'll see you shortly. And to everyone out there, I know that in between now and the next time we'll see you either on this live stream or on the show, we have a little holiday coming up. And I am very, very thankful. I'm very, very thankful that I get the opportunity to write and to live stream and to do this with all of you. I truly get energy out of this whole interaction every week. I hope you do too. I hope you leave it feeling good and charged up and having fun. And I hope you have a wonderful, blessed Thanksgiving with your family, with your friends, whoever you're with, maybe even with the crazy uncle that you disagree with. Have a wonderful time. Stay safe, be healthy, be well, and we will see you soon. Maybe next week, maybe even sooner. Take care.